For more on this, let's bring in Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, member of the House Oversight Committee. Clearly, you don't have jurisdiction in the committee over the Fairfax County public school system, but I'm wondering what you think of what you just heard about.
Well, what I'm hearing is atrocious. It's despicable. It's disgusting. And look, let's cut right to the chase. Doing this does not help black kids. Because you got people in these school districts, and it's not just Fairfax County. It's been found in Fairfax County, but stuff like this is going on in other ways all across America. And the whole purpose of this diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff is to somehow level a playing field for black kids. You're not going to help black children succeed by holding everybody else down. You don't help them succeed by taking away the issues of merit and achievement. We are in a society that has been based on competition. Our economy is based on competition. Our athletes compete every day. Our musicians compete, and our entertainers all compete. You can't take that away from young kids and think they're going to succeed. It is going to be false. Look, I got 3 sons. I always tell my kids, you got to work hard for everything. Nobody's giving you anything. You got to scratch and claw every single day if you're going to achieve something. But in our school districts, if they think the way for black kids to get ahead is to hold other kids back, it is wrong, and it's going to fail everybody.
Now, this equity system was meant to alleviate racism, at least in the eyes of those who believe that this was a good idea. But what instead it's doing is perpetuating racism. It's just switching it to a different minority group.
No, that's exactly right. That's what it's doing. Listen, the history of race in America is disgusting. We all know this. Nobody's trying to rewrite history. We know what it is. But to then use that history, which has been destructive of black people in the United States, to perpetuate this nonsense now, which is destructive of other people in the United States, is also wrong. We should be rewarding merit. We should be showing our children, yes, success is earned, not given. And so that's the pathway forward. Continuing this is only going to divide Americans and divide America. It's not going to bring us together. And like I said before, it's not going to help black kids succeed, because at the end of the day, when you go into the real world and you have to prove your worth, you have to prove your mettle, but you've never had to do it in school, you're not going to be ready for the real world.
All right. Now, let's switch gears now and talk to you about something that you do have oversight over, and that is the presidency of the United States and what happens in this administration. And today we learn that while President Biden's attorneys were given free rein to go search out whatever documents were at his home, the DOJ did come to his house in Wilmington after classified documents were found and took charge of those documents. But there was a conscious decision made, Congressman, for the FBI to not lead the investigation into searching for documents after classified documents had already been found. What will the Oversight Committee do about this? What is this investigation going to look like?
Well, listen, the number one question is going to be why the double standard in the way the FBI is utilized by the Department of Justice. They had no problem raiding Mar-a-Lago. But let's go back even before the Mar-a-Lago raid. Donald Trump's attorneys was in negotiations, in talks with the National Archives. They were well aware of what was happening at Mar-a-Lago. So why the FBI raid? You compare that to what's happened with Joe Biden at his residence, where, yes, the FBI was there, but Merrick Garland didn't do his job in making sure that they were running the search and investigation to make sure everything was found and secured. Third question, did Joe Biden's attorneys, do they have security clearance to handle these documents and continue that search? That's a major question as well.
Yeah, well, but going back to Mar-a-Lago, those negotiations had gone on for more than a year between the Department of Justice, the Trump organization, or not the Trump organization, but the president's post-presidential organization and the National Archives and Records Administration. But at some point, President Trump's attorneys told those entities that all of the documents had been handed over when that wasn't the case, which is what prompted the raid. So in terms of the differences here, there do seem to be some, but you believe that there is still a double standard here in terms of how those two things were handled.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Because here's the other thing. You get leaks to the press, pictures of documents tossed all over the floor. I mean, come on. This is the kind of double standard that has existed. Unfortunately, it appears that the Department of Justice one of the reasons why House Republicans have formulated the weaponization of the federal government committee that is going to be looking into this and more, as well as the oversight committee. But the one thing that's being lost with the documents that have been found at President Biden's Wilmington home, and to not to step off of that, is what about the documents at the Penn Biden Center? Because those documents are not in his home. They were in another office. How long were those documents there? How did then Vice President Joe Biden get those documents when he left office? And again, vice presidents are very different than presidents of the United States simply because the president of the United States is the head of the executive branch. They have the ability, unlike anybody else, to classify and declassify information. So that's what makes this very different. How long were those documents there? What was the situation around the handling at the Penn Biden Center? That's the stuff that I know media is focused on the residents and the Corvette, but my focus is still on the Penn Biden Center because those are the documents that Joe Biden had in his possession, apparently before he became president of the United States.
And a question we still don't have an answer to is what prompted the search of the Penn Biden Center for documents on November 2nd in the first place? Perhaps the committee will get to the bottom of that. Congressman Byron Donalds, always good to catch up with you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.